And joining us today on our Book Talk segment, great to welcome a woman who has put together a book that has helped a lot of people. It is called The Gluten-free Revolution, and this is actually the 20th edition of the book. And she joined us by the telephone today. Her name is Jax Peters Lowell, and we're going to find out all about it. And Jax, good to talk to you. How are you today?
I'm fine. Great to be with you.
Yeah, congratulations again on the book. I guess 20 years ago, you kind of went through this in your personal life. Did you expect it to reach that many people?
Never. I mean, I wrote Against the Grain 20 years ago, but was diagnosed with celiac disease way earlier.
Right.
And honestly, like all people who are doing something a little bit ahead of our time, I felt like the crazy person in the room. People had no idea what gluten was. But that first book got such a big response, an amazing response, and I just knew it wasn't rare. It was considered a rare condition. It's not at all. And it's wonderful to have been the pioneer in the field and to help so many people.
You bring up a good point there. Like you said, more than 20 years ago, occasionally you would hear about somebody that couldn't eat bread or anything with gluten in it, but that was very unusual. Now, and I guess the statistics you have in the book here, 40 million Americans, I guess, buy gluten. They may not be all have celiac disease, but they all buy gluten-free, right? So it's quite a big amount of people.
Yes. Well, yes, and also celiac disease incidence is rising, and gluten sensitivity is exploding. More and more people are sensitive from one degree to another, are sensitive to gluten. And in addition, food allergies as a category is rising. So there's so much misinformation. People are basically looking to be healthier. They're reacting to their food in a way that they hadn't. And when people talk about it being a trend, I always say trends start somewhere in truth. Mm-hmm. They always do. You don't just pull a trend out of the air. You stop gluten because you think that's what's hurting you. And so now we have millions and millions of people, almost 40% of the population, and that's a conservative estimate, following the gluten-free diet.
Yeah, I went through some food allergies as a kid, and fortunately it wasn't to gluten as much, but milk and eggs and that kind of thing. But do we know why gluten kind of took the lead in that people can't tolerate that?
We don't. No. Actually, we don't, and that begs a much bigger question. If it's a certain group of people who, like myself, who are genetically predisposed to have this autoimmune condition, then of course, because we're genetically predisposed, we can't tolerate gluten. It's simple, like somebody can't tolerate sesame seeds. But now we're in a situation where we're finding, I'm finding after all the research that I've done, I wonder sometimes if we're not all the canaries in the coal mine. In that, is there something wrong with our grain? Is it GMO? Is it pesticide? What is it? Because it's crazy that so many people are eating and getting sickened by what is a staple food. What sustained people for hundreds and thousands of years. Why now? And when you do as much research as I've done, and you look and you see that 64 countries in the world don't allow American GMO wheat, you say to yourself, maybe there is something wrong. Maybe it's a bigger issue. Because food allergies are rising as well. And high fructose corn syrup is everywhere. And corn is the biggest GMO crop ever. So maybe this is what's happening. Childhood mood disorders and autism and really serious things seem to be on the rise. It makes one wonder.
It really does. Well, you just brought up the good point there. Bread, in the Bible, manna from heaven, that's what sustained people. You wouldn't think that would be the thing that would cause so many problems.
Exactly.
Yeah. A little bit about from when you first wrote the book to now. Obviously, there's been a lot of research and development since then. Anything that kind of stands out over the 20 years that is much newer, much more important today than 20 years ago?
Well, one thing we learned, and it wasn't recent, but it was maybe, I forget how many years ago, but recent research, big epidemiology study, the biggest ever, discovered that this rare condition, celiac disease, wasn't so rare, that 1 in 133 Americans have it. It wasn't rare, it was underdiagnosed. People just spent their lives struggling with this and never got a diagnosis. The other newer fact that just happened, I think I just made it in the book. I think it's in the book, and it's fascinating. Many, many years, parents with children on the spectrum of autism have been putting their children on the gluten-free casein diet, believed to minimize the issues that arise with autism. Mm-hmm. And the doctors always said, it doesn't do a thing. Do it if you want, but it doesn't help. Well, 6 months ago, a small study at Columbia University looked at children on the spectrum, varying degrees of severity, and those children they had varying degrees of gut inflammation. And what's interesting is that the degree of severity correlated with the degree of severity of gut inflammation.
Wow.
That was huge news, and I just stood up and cheered every parent who put their child on that diet anyway. Because when you have a child, you're going to do what you need to do, and sometimes research doesn't catch up with you. So you have to use your best instincts, and here, suddenly, all those parents were right. So, it's exciting. We're learning a lot about how foods, what they're connected. I mean, gluten and behavioral disorders is another thing. It's now officially associated for children. And now parents are thinking, well, maybe they don't need medication. Maybe they need a gluten-free diet. And a lot of kids improve, which is wonderful.
That's great to hear. I know we have limited time today, but the book updated, obviously. We got a great section of recipes. So, and I guess the ingredients, obviously, a lot easier to get nowadays than, I guess, when you first had to find gluten-free food, right?
No, it was impossible.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, I have more friends who endured cheerfully my attempts at peach crisps and cookies and whatever. They really, really had to endure that, and I tried because there was no food. But nowadays, that's completely different. And also, the baking mixes. Now, there are many. If you like to bake a little bit, all you have to do is put cup for cup. Literally, you don't have to mix all the different kinds of gluten-free flours to get the right consistency. Mm. You simply put 1 cup of this instead of 1 cup of that. That's amazing. That's great. All these kids making cookies together. Right. Perfect. No problem.
The Gluten-Free Revolution is the name of the book. We've been talking with Jax Peters Lowell today. And give out a website, Jax. People can get a hold of you, the book.
Yes, Jax Lowell, JaxLowell.com. Much more information. Impossible to squeeze so much in one, from such a big book into 10 minutes. But lots of information for people to follow me there.
Great. Appreciate you taking a few minutes, and good luck with the book, and hopefully we can talk to you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I hope so. I'll look forward to it.
If you'd like to order the book we're talking about, please go to DougMilesMedia.com and enter the author's name in the Amazon search box. Thank you for listening. Please come back soon for more conversations here at DougMilesMedia.com. This has been a presentation of Doug Miles Media, all rights reserved. You can listen to or download previous programs at iTunes, Stitcher.com, or DougMilesMedia.com.